And we are live. Hello and welcome to another 2 Old Pucks Hockey Chat with Scott and Chris. This is the December 1st edition, and we have so many goodies lined up for everyone tonight. Right, Scott?
Yeah, it's goodies. It's always good. Always good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you lead off.
Okay.
So take it away, sir.
All right. So it's interesting. We talked about some fallout from Mike Babcock the last time that we were on, and some of the things that we heard coming out of Calgary. Obviously, Bill Peters is now out of a job. So, you know, we knew that this was going to be the floodgates. You knew that it was going to just open the door for all sorts of potential stories. And so they've actually started to come out. And so the person leading the charge is Daniel Carcillo. So he's an ex hockey player, goes by the Twitter handle of CarbombBoom13. And he's basically put the call out saying that he wants to be an advocate. And he's experienced some issues himself. And he really just doesn't have, there's nothing in it for him to be vindictive. It's just a matter of him wanting to come out and make people aware of what's going on. And so one of the things that he's kind of pointed out is, hockey always holds itself to a higher standard, right? You don't have anybody kneeling on the ice. Nobody's refusing to come out onto the ice for any particular reason. There's really not a lot of protests or anything like that. But there are things that go on behind the scenes, and we've heard about a few of them. Sean Avery came out and said that he had a coach in the NHL who kicked him in the back while he was on the bench because he took too many men on the ice call. So there's this abusive culture per se, and a lot of it gets covered up again because you have guys that are rookies, but then it also goes to, it's not just in the NHL. It's also in women's hockey, and there are folks that are reaching out to Daniel Carcillo with their stories and basically sharing them and saying, hey, even in women's hockey, coaches there are vindictive, they're abusive. There are stories of women who have been singled out by their coaches, whose coaches have approached other players on the team to try and alienate them socially. It's really crazy, and it's good that it's coming out. Definitely don't want to focus a lot of time on it this evening, but it's good that it's coming out because I think that if you're going to rip the scab off, just rip it off. Just get it all out there so that, it can be talked about, so that it can be brought to a head, and that swift action can be taken, and that organizations can get over it. Because I got to tell you, one of the things that I hate to have happen is whenever these stories come out is that, it just continues to linger, right? It never stops. And it's not a question of whether victims should come forward or not. I mean, certainly anybody that's had an issue should definitely speak up, especially to get predators and these types of people out of the game. Like you don't want them in the game, but at the same time, just get it out there and get it going. And so Daniel Carcillo, who was a troublemaker on the ice, known more for his physicality than anything else, has decided he's going to be the advocate, and good on him. And so anybody that wants to kind of get a history Again, people are sharing stories on his Twitter account, and that's at CarBombBoom13. And so I just recommend you follow it if you want some background. And really, this should speak to parents as well, because it's all about getting to know who you're entrusting your kids to on the ice, off the ice. Having an awareness and empowering your kids to speak up if they feel like they're not being treated fairly, or if they're being abused. And when I say treated fairly, I don't mean that Johnny got more ice time than Billy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being physically or verbally berated beyond the point of instruction. I'm talking about any time that a coach gets physical with a player. I mean, that should never happen. There should never be a time when a coach puts his hands on a player, no matter the age, no matter the gender, it doesn't matter. So this is just as much about getting the stories out there to weed these people out of the sport itself, but is also should serve as a public service announcement for parents to empower their kids when they're young, and to let them know that they don't have to take it. It's not their fault. And they don't have to keep quiet for fear of not being able to play or putting their careers in jeopardy.
Well said, well put, well summarized. Couple thoughts. One is, how did the Mitch Marner story with Babcock leak? Where was the source of that news?
So there, you know what? Now, and looking back, I'd have to go back and do some research. I don't know if he said it himself,
Or if he just corroborated someone else who leaked it.
someone else's story.
See, the reason I ask is this: is if this was someone who leaked a story under the table, and then someone decided to run with it, and now all of a sudden other people are using that as an excuse, it's almost like people are trying to exploit an opportunity in their favor to get their name in the press, I feel. Right? And I'm not trying to diminish any actions of any coaches upon any players. Not at all. What I'm trying to do is separate the opportunists and the people who are trying to exploit the media in their favor. Because when you have ex-players, before this, what's the last you heard about Dan Carcillo, other than when he was on the ice?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
That's okay, right? Let's leave that at that, right? So if Marner leaked this story, then you could legitimize everything else behind it a little bit more and say, okay, a player who had the balls and said, I'm not going to take this anymore, right, comes forward, and then other players are like, good for you, I'm coming forward. Or if you view it as a story that was leaked and then a media guy leaked it, and now other people are jumping on the train, it's almost like, well, it's an opportunity to get my name in the press too. That's the way I perceive it. And once again, not to diminish the story, but there's so many facets of this Me Too movement that we've seen in the past 5-10 years across all parts of social whatever, things in the media affecting our lives. But what bothers me is once this train leaves the station, right? Now you're going to get into people trying to find those boundaries as to what is a legitimate complaint, what's not a legitimate complaint. And people are going to be, it's going to be one word against the other. And the people who come out with a claim have sort of like that head start on smearing someone else. And now the other person who maybe didn't really do anything wrong is on the defensive, trying to protect their name, right? So there's a lot at stake here with a lot of these accusations. And for anyone who's been an athlete and been on a team, right? And for those people that maybe are Maybe those people who were played as the second string by a coach or third string and carry a little bit of bitterness or resentment because of that fact, right? This is an opportunity to come forward. Oh, he kicked me. Okay, maybe he kicked everybody. How did he kick him? Did he kick him while he was laughing and then the guy was laughing who he kicked? We don't know,
That's
right?
true.
There's a
That's true.
million different ways to perceive this, and I look at this as a very opportunistic way for someone to come forward and let the media run with it and just get their name out there a million times, and then someone else has to defend themselves.
No,
It's sad and it's
yeah,
unfortunate,
you're
and
right.
we'll never get to the truth of it. But
Well,
go ahead.
so to your point though, I mean, you're absolutely right. What I don't want are people coming out with stories that are untrue, and just as you said, tarnishing someone's reputation, and then not having anything to corroborate it. So in the case of Babcock, you absolutely had somebody corroborate it, and the story was first published in the news. It was published in the news, and it didn't give the name. That didn't come out until later, for Mitch Marner. For Bill Peters, that was corroborated by two different players. And then there were other incidents where the assistant coach at the time when Bill Peters was coaching Carolina, he spoke out. I mean, so to your point, the staff in Carolina reported Bill Peters' behavior and thought that was it. They said it never happened again. Whatever was said between the GM, Ron Francis, and Peters, like they thought it was taken care of. As Rob Brindamore said. So, there may have been action taken, and we don't know. So, to your point, the issue may have already been resolved.
But that's kind of what I'm saying is that
Yeah,
there's so many different ways for someone to perceive it who don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? So
yep,
people, like a player can come out, it's just so messy. They're going to play the media to echo whatever their good or bad intentions are, right? So like you just said, I have so many thoughts on this. I'm losing my one train of thought on it as
that's
I'm
okay.
trying to get it all out at once. It
Yeah,
it it, it actually it bothers me from the standpoint that this is. I'll get right to the heart of it. This is what bothers me, is that the NHL doesn't have procedures, policies, and procedures in place for administrators within a team to be able, or channels that exist, pre-existing channels for administrators to follow up with any questions, comments, or suggestions, or even reports about things that they see happening within their organization. That then gets passed up to the NHL league officials, right? So
yep,
you could have almost like a supervisory board within the NHL overseeing, and almost from a HR standpoint, right? I mean, you do have to look at this as an overall. This is a big business. This is all under the NHL umbrella, and maybe the NHL as a league and as an organization needs to expand its HR department and plant some people into each organization, and in doing so, I'll bet you see a heck of a lot of drop in this stuff. But we have to all also think about where it's all originated from. If anyone is an athlete that's played on a team, yeah, you're gonna joke around. You're just gonna be that fraternal sort of existence between you and your teammates, right? And you're gonna joke around. You're gonna kid around. You're gonna bust each other's chops. You're gonna have a good time. And guess what? For hundreds of years, that's what's brought people closer together, right?
sure.
For the most part, I'm talking 99% of examples of that have brought teams closer together. Look at every winning team. Every time you see a winning team in baseball, hockey, soccer, football, basketball, whatever it might be, oh, we've never had a bunch like this. These are my brothers. These are my closest guys. I've never been on a team with people closer than this, right? Those guys are doing the same exact thing as every other team in the league. But they won it that year, right? And there are other teams that may be saying it, maybe not to the same degree, whatever, but they're all experiencing overall the same camaraderie. And you know what? If there's a guy on a team, and every team is going to have that sort of, I don't want to say bad apple, but that guy who perceives things maybe a little bit differently, or maybe he's a little bit bitter, or a little bit resentful that the coach didn't pull them out of the game too early, or whatever it might be, and could use this as a platform to get a message out, or as payback. So, you know what? How do we trust it? There's no one else to corroborate it. Everything's, it's a he said, she said thing. And we're going to put all our weight into what Dan Carcillo is saying. Oh, I saw him kick someone in the back. I saw him do that. He kicked someone in the back with what? A slipper? Where were
Well,
they? Were they in a den watching a movie? Like, what
yeah.
were they doing?
So Dan Carcillo isn't necessarily the person with the claims. Dan Carcillo has spoken out and said, "Hey, I've seen some things." Dan Carcillo, I believe, was
Right.
the suitor, the Suter family. He brought that up, and then he put the call out on social media for people to share their stories. And so a lot of the stories that have been shared actually have been corroborated. They were in the news, as a matter of fact. This isn't the first time they've come out, but there's a PR monster that the NHL has to kind of squash things. So we spent about 15 minutes on this, and I don't necessarily want to end the conversation without kind of getting the message out. I just think that it's going to be an interesting situation to monitor. I think that there are going to be more stories. And I think, to your point, everything that you said about having people in the organization, I think if the NHL is smart and the Players Association is smart, that there's going to be some language included in the next collective bargaining agreement that talks about options for players that want to grieve issues with the coach. And so whether that's the team's Players Association rep, because every team has one, whether that's some sort of a channel that's there, that I think the players need to be able to have that outlet, like every organization has.
Exactly.
And so, no, I mean, so every point you brought up was absolutely valid. I just think that maybe it's something that the Players Association can bring up, can include language in the next CBA, and then on the same token, force the NHL and its individual clubs to put those policies and procedures in place to deal with those things. I think it's got to be quick because you got to get it over with. You got to address the issue, and I think you have to deal with it. And to your point, we're not talking about your run-of-the-mill hazing. Which I hate to use that word, being with my past profession, hazing had some negative connotations to it. But your playful, ribbing, your brotherly kind of picking on each other. You know what? You just that. The horsing around, I think it's not that, but to your point, there needs to be some outlet for the players to have where it's quick and it's precise, and they need to have that. And right now, I don't think that's in place, and I think that's going to any stories or anything that comes out as teams continue to get approached by, hey, we heard your coach did this or your coach did that. I think they're going to have to deal with it. And I think there's going to have to be some language put into some contracts or some agreements going forward.
I agree with you. I don't see any other way around it, because otherwise this he said, she said stuff is going to go on forever. That's why, you know what, I'm not trying to come across as callous. It's just very difficult to believe. And there's no reason why we should trust one person over another. I mean, it's. I think the exception to that would be Babcock, who admitted to a lot of the claims personally against him. And he said, "Yes, I did that." Then I would, now that we know both sides of the story, right? We heard Marner's side, and we heard Babcock's side, and everything basically that we initially heard was confirmed as being true from the source itself. right? So then my opinion would be, okay, Babcock may not be the best guy out there to be leading some troops based on his coaching techniques and strategies, right? So that's my opinion. I just don't agree with the guy. I don't know. We're hearing, obviously, like anything else, people are so willing to come out with the negativity, negativity. I don't know Babcock well enough, and I don't know how many people do, to the point of how philanthropic the guy is. How many families has he helped? How many people has he helped in their careers? Right. So this might be he might have 1,000 good things on his side to every one negative claim. And it's going to be hard to corroborate that, because it takes 10 times the effort for someone to come out and really back something with some positivity. But it's a topic, and I'm sure we're going to hear it again, and it's going to be echoed in upcoming, broadcasts with us. And I'm sure new things are going to come out, unfortunately. But we're going to have to deal with it. And like you said, it's going to be a scab, and it's just got to come right off. And hopefully it comes right off over the period of a month and not like year, so it doesn't drag on. Anyway, what's next on your agenda?
So I want to we touched on David Pasternak, I believe, in the last discussion, but the guy just continues to light the lamp, and so second straight 12-goal month to begin the season. He's just a couple days ago scored his 24th goal of the season against the Rangers. That was on Friday. Yep. He's the fourth player in NHL history with at least 12 goals in each of the first 2 months of the season. So get this company. And by the way, the first one to do it in 27 years. So that's despite the fact that you have Alex Ovechkin, you have Sidney Crosby, right? You have these incredible players, right? So the other players to accomplish the feat: Wayne Gretzky in 81, 82, 83, 84, Mike Bossy in 84, 85, and Mario Lemieux.
Jesus.
I mean, talk about the company that you're in with that. And the guy has 41 points. He's not even first on the team. He still trails Brad Marchand. But, I mean, the guy is on pace now for something like, 76 goals and 129 points. That would beat Phil Esposito for the franchise record for single season scores. That was set back in 1970-71.
And he still might come in second.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, the guy is just putting the puck in the net. And as a hockey fan, even if you're not a Bruins fan, you have to be you just want to watch it. You just want to watch the next goal. You want to see just how far he's going to take it. It's an amazing streak, or it's amazing. It's an amazing pace.
He's and it's the goals he's scoring are pretty ones also. Just how he sets up players, how he's scoring, everything. He's just a great talent. I mean, like I was, I brought this up in the last broadcast. Like not just with Charlie Coyle and Pasternak is making Coyle look good sometimes, when they happen to be on the ice at the same time. But the Bruins are just across the board. They're playing well. I mean, just right now they're playing the Canadiens. They're up 2-1 in the third, and their scoring comes from Pasternak with a goal. Assisted by Bjork and Carlo, and then the second goal back is assisted by Krejci and Grzelcyk.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So,
the guy's crazy.
Good and balanced, man. It's a good balanced team. They're strong, and you know what? They just have more talented scorers than the next team. And I think that's what's great about them, is that they have guys who are natural scorers, guys who just know how to put the puck in the net. And good for them. Yeah, no,
it's definitely good. I think that's a great segue. Talking about Boston and how well they're playing is to really, as you like to harp on, talk about the power rankings.
Okay.
because Boston's play and particularly being driven by Marchand, Pasternak, and the players they have on the team have bumped them up to first in the power rankings.
Yeah.
And I mean it's it's deserved, right?
Yeah.
I think that you're probably going to see three teams really rotate between those top three spots. I think that's going to be Boston. I think that's going to be the Capitals, who are in second. And I think that's going to be the Islanders. The Islanders were on top for a while. Their West Coast trip didn't go as well as planned, but hey, it's out of the way. It's done. They made their swing through, and they're going to move on. It's just been a couple games. It wasn't crazy, and it's certainly nothing to be scared of, that trip. But man, just those three teams, I think, are just going to exchange spots, and it's just crazy how being driven by those teams.
Yeah, and I think what's nice about, and this is what kind of scares me as an Islanders fan. This is what scares me, and I appreciate you putting them in the company of the Capitals and the Bruins in the top three spots there in the power rankings. However, what you find with the Capitals and the Bruins is that they have some natural goal scorers who are going to be putting the puck in the net on a regular basis, because it's like breathing to them, right? The Islanders, I would be hard pressed to say who's a natural goal scorer. Who's a natural goal scorer? I could say who's a natural point maker. I think Barzal is doing a really nice job balancing his game. I mean, this guy is developing incredibly well, both on the offense with scoring a goal, setting someone up, and his defensive play has been amazing. Like, he is just, in the past year, his level of play has jumped a notch or two. And I think you're going to see him as he gets even better. He's just getting better. I think you're going to see in another year or two that he may develop into a natural goal scorer. But right now, I can't say that anyone on the Islanders is a natural goal scorer. I think the way the team plays as a team, they're very, very willing to give up the puck for someone else. And you see that quite often, that they go to make the extra pass instead of taking the shot, because no one really naturally has that in them to take that shot. It's almost like they're more than willing to give up the puck for someone else to take the shot. And we need that natural goal scorer. Now, is that good or bad? I think the good part is that you start to see scoring across more lines like the Islanders have. The bad part is that people will go through streaks. You'll see guys get hot. You'll see guys get cold, because everyone's just always willing to give up the puck, and no one's really getting into any sort of goal-scoring rhythm. So, as you've seen, perfect example is Jordan Eberle last year in the playoffs. He got hot right at the exact right time going into those playoffs. It was amazing. Cizikas was hot in the second half of the season. Right now, Eberle is dead cold. Lee, captain of our team, a little bit cool. He scored in the last game, but he's been cold. So everyone's going through these cycles. But I like if I'm a Washington Capitals fan or a Boston Bruins fan, it's almost like I can go to a game and count on seeing Ovechkin score. I can count on seeing a Marchand score. And I like that about those teams, and I think that's what really is going to keep them in those top, in those top three spots. As an Islander fan, I get a little worried, not too worried. I think it's that collective effort, but I'm hoping that I feel more confident than ever that the coaching is going to keep them up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's great about if you live in those cities with those teams that are consistently good. You know that when you go to the game or you turn it on TV, you're going to see a good product. And that's for a lot of those, perennial playoff teams, that's it's good, and it's not just good; it's great. It's a good reflection on ownership, on the GMs for keeping their teams competitive, and that's what you want to see. And so, I just kind of want to talk about some streaks across the league.
Just scored, by the way, assisted by Coyle.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some streaks and some teams that have really kind of surprised me. So Philadelphia's on a 4-game winning streak. They won 4 in a row. And just last week we talked about them. If you were a team, they were the team, or if you were a team that needed a win, that was the team to get it against, was Philly. The Capitals, a 3-game win streak, right? Again, that's not surprising. Boston's on a 6-game winning streak. Again, with the offense that they have, the overall team concept, not really all that crazy. Pittsburgh has lost 2 in a row. Ottawa has lost 4 in a row. And to round out the basement of the East is Detroit with 7 straight losses. Right, so no surprise with Detroit. It's the basement. They're in a rebuilding phase. It is what it is, and so it's unfortunate. You may have teams that are going to end up looking like Detroit in a few years when they win so often, they finish so high so often that they can't draft, and they have guys that are on the roster and they're taking up spots, and they get old and they don't move. Until they're well past their prime. They've got contracts that nobody else wants to take. And so you end up really having to rebuild, and it takes a while to do it. So out in the West, St. Louis and Colorado, both with 3-game winning streaks, not unexpected there. Colorado is really, I think they're going to solidify themselves as a perennial, at least postseason favorite. San Jose has won 2 in a row. Edmonton's lost 2 in a row. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10, their goal differential is slipping now. They're down to a +6. So
with Colorado, it's funny you mentioned Colorado. They're the second best differential. They have a +22. They're the 7th ranked team in the league. So interesting.
Yeah. So, it's one of those that offense will carry you far, but obviously you have to have a well-rounded team. Vegas and Calgary both won 2 in a row. But Minnesota's put up a 3-game streak. So, that's good on them that they're able to put something together, because Minnesota really hamstrung themselves with some really bad contracts with some guys who names were big, contributions to previous teams were big, but they kind of put themselves in a hole, and I think it's going to take a while for them to get out. So,
right.
Those some interesting things I saw, especially the Philadelphia winning 4 in a row. That really stuck out to me, because completely unexpected, especially with the way they were going just a week or so ago.
And then you take a look, and the poor fans of Detroit. Detroit has a -53 differential. 53. 62 goals for, 115 goals against. They've lost the last 7 games. Oy. That's it's tough to swallow as a Detroit fan. I feel bad for the team. I feel bad for the fans, I should say. And 17 points.
I mean, your number one goalie, and by number one, really is just by games played. Is Jonathan Bernier. 5 wins, 7 losses, 52 goals against. He's allowing 3.3 goals a game, with a save percentage of .894. Jimmy Howard's the number 2, he's 2-11. With a 3.94 goals against average and .887. So if you put that in perspective, you you basically, if you're the team in front of the skaters, on any given night, Detroit has to score four goals just to tie or win.
Right.
Just to tie or win, 4 goals. It's every night they have to do that, right? And so you have on that Detroit roster, I mean, you have some players who, 12 goals, 10 goals. I mean, those are your 2 leading scorers, Anthony Mantha and Tyler Bertuzzi. Those are your 2 leading goal scorers. It goes from 12 and 10. The next highest is Dylan Larkin with 6. Right? You're not scoring 4 goals a night with this lineup. Your goaltending has got to do better. Jimmy Howard is been around for a long time and needs to move on. So you look at these teams, and Detroit still, they've still got some guys that they just need to move out, and they need to commit to the rebuild, and they need to really overhaul this roster. I think. Andreas Athanasiou is a minus 29, right? Valtteri Filppula minus 23. I mean, plus minus isn't really it doesn't really fit in with statistics nowadays. You have advanced stats, but still, man, numbers those high really tell you something, right? And it's just crazy. So
looking at the just to quickly put things in perspective from the Boston Bruins, as powerful as they are and as they've been playing. Goals for based on games played. So goals, per game is at 3.73. 3.69, number 2 in the league. If you look at their power play percentage, 31.6, number 1 in the league. You look at their penalty killing, right? And they are 8th in the league, killing 84.3%. Those special teams are that's what's bringing them to that next level. They have it down on both the power play and the penalty killing. And if you look at if we're going to talk about, and I like, how you rounded out the top 3, but if you were to do the same, goals for based on the Washington Capitals, they're number 4 in the league, right? And then you look at the power play percentage, and the Capitals are number 5 in the league. And the penalty killing, they're number 12. But then you look at the Islanders, right? And the Islanders are 17th in the league as far as how many goals average per game, right? Power play percentage, 18th in the league, right? And then their penalty killing is a little bit better, 10th in the league. So this is where things, as an Islander fan, get a little worrisome, right? You got the 2 elite teams, you got the Bruins and the Caps that are really in that very high upper levels of the league, and the Islanders just need to do better. I think those percentages have slipped in the past 5-6 games and haven't helped them. There was one game, I think it was 2 games ago, they had 6 power plays and didn't score on one of them. I think it was San Jose possibly. So but yeah, as you mentioned, they had a bad road trip, but the best teams are doing well because they're leading in the special team categories. And you hear it a lot, especially on the NHL Network, when the analysts come on, the special teams have to be lit. They just have to be doing their job. And those teams that are in the top 3 are, for the most part, doing their job. The Bruins are just on fire.
And the Bruins are giving up 2.3 goals against per game.
Yep.
Right? So if you put that in perspective, their forwards only have to score 3. That and that's cake for them.
And they're
they're
number 1 in the league as far as goals against. So goals for they're 2, and goals against they're number 1.
And that's and really that's what it boils down to. So the last thing that I want to throw in there on this part of the conversation is that Edmonton is at 30.8% on the power play. They trail only Boston. And so again, to your point about special teams wins you games. You have to be able to take advantage of that. And Edmonton certainly has a very strong power play. And they're also Edmonton is number 2 in the league on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
So despite really only having one real solid line's worth of offense, their special teams are certainly doing something for them. And that save percentage is a big deal there. Having a good goaltender, and that's what you want. So, I mean, I think
just to be fair,
yeah,
the Islanders in goals against are 4th in the league.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, but again, you're talking about
on the defense.
Yeah, I mean, so
5-on-5 hockey, that is.
Yeah, but Boston, Dallas, New York, St. Louis. I mean, all those teams are right up there.
Yep.
In their save percentage. So, that's what you want to see in a team, and that's what's going to get you the points. It's what's going to win out overall in the long run. So,
yeah.
But I mean, I think that's a good conversation talking about stats and really those power rankings in the league. So, I think it's probably a good enough point to kind of cut it off.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's go through some of the scores. The Bruins did finalize that game at 3-1. The Wild beat the Stars 3-2 in a shootout. And we have the Oilers and the Canucks coming up in a few minutes. Predictions for Monday, December 2nd. We have Devils and the Sabres.
Two teams. I'm Buffalo. I'm going to go with Buffalo. They've been on an upswing.
Yep, I'll go with Buffalo. Golden Knights and Rangers.
That all depends. I think if Fleury's back, Marc-Andre Fleury's father passed away earlier this week, so they're not sure when he's going to come back. But Malcolm Subban has filled in admirably, and so I think Vegas is probably going to pull that one out.
Yeah. I'll go with Vegas. Islanders, Red Wings.
Islanders.
Blues, Blackhawks.
So I think Chicago, they're looking at that St. Louis game as another one of those get up for it games. Yeah. And I'm going to go with Chicago on that one.
I'm going to go Blues on that one. Kings, Ducks.
John Gibson. And if he's on, I think Anaheim's going to win. Their offensive, their scoring has kind of dried up, but I think that Anaheim's probably going to take that game.
I'll go Kings. Why not? All right. So good conversation tonight. It's definitely interesting to talk about this stuff in the news, and hoping that the topics that we started off with don't continue for too much longer. But either way, it's definitely it is part of the sport, and we definitely need to address it. So good chat on that, and we will be back Wednesday, this Wednesday the 4th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hopefully everyone who sees this will join us. But other than that, I thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a good evening. Scotty?
Yep. Nope. It's December 1st, so counting down the days till Christmas. One other thing for folks to watch is you're probably going to start seeing some roster moves between the parent clubs and the AHL teams, maybe even a trade or two before the holiday break kicks in and the roster freeze kicks in.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Take care.